Welcome to the Cherry Picker, the horror movie podcast where we like to kill people, but not really. I'm your host, Zack Sherry, and with me as always...
How many of my babies dead inside of you? I couldn't find the line in time. Wait, I got it here. How many times do I need to watch my children die inside of you? Ugh! Eddie of Edward is Truth. He's disgusting.
The husband? Were they married?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get into that. Right? We'll get into that. But all right. Malignant, released September 10th, 2021. This was a big movie that year. Yeah. And I feel like I don't know, I haven't heard anything about it lately. But, you know, people were talking about it for a while, and I wanted us to cover it eventually. So this just felt like a good time. So here we are, Malignant. Terrible husband.
Well,
what do you...
we're not malignant. We're not malignant. He certainly is. But I think the only buzz I've heard around it, we can. Well, yeah. One of us can. But I feel like the only... The only buzz I've heard lately, or the mere mention of it, has been around its screenwriter, Akilah Cooper, because she also wrote Megan, M3gan. And yeah, so when people are just like, from the screenwriter who brought you M3gan, you know?
No, it'd be like from the screenwriter who brought you Malignant. Malignant.
Oh, if they make a sequel and they want to put a number in it, I wonder which one.
Where would the number go? Where would the 2 go? Or it would be like,
I think
I'm just looking at the logo right now because it's, if you're watching the video, it's above our head. It would probably be like MAL, but then 2 eyes. Because remember how like the eye on the poster was like a sharp thing that went down, so it'll just be 2 of them.
It'll be Malignant. Or I'm always a fan of like the Teen Wolf 2 way of doing things, where you do a TOO and an exclamation mark at the end. So Malignant 2. I'd like that as well.
There's like another person with a parasitic twin. It's just like, oh, you're malignant too?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, okay.
They'll only have like one character in common.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can only imagine how you would do a premise for that one. But speaking of which, do you have a premise for Malignant 1? Malignant?
Yes, I do. Stop making me laugh. I got to get through this. All right.
In 1993, Dr. Florence Weaver and her colleagues treat a violent, disturbed patient who controls electricity and broadcasts his thoughts via the airwaves. After this patient kills several staff members, Dr. Weaver determines he is a lost cause and that the cancer must be removed. 27 years later, Madison Lake Mitchell, a pregnant woman living in Seattle, returns home to her abusive husband, Derek, who smashes Madison's head against a wall, causing her to bleed at the point of impact. After locking herself in her room for protection, Madison has a home invasion nightmare, ending with Derek's murder, only to find her waking dream is in fact a terrifying reality, as Maddie is continually paralyzed by shocking visions of grisly murders. 2 investigators are left to wonder whether Maddie could be their killer, or is the real culprit story something darker, something more malignant?
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, right?
So, the last time you and I spoke about this movie, which was before we started the podcast, actually, funny fact, is that because the old podcast that we used to do, this, I think Malignant was the last movie that we covered on that. Before we were just like, okay, let's start from the beginning and do the cherry picker. We took that time off. So if memory serves, you were, because like when you first saw it, you're just like, oh, that was so much fun. And then when we talked about it, you're like, yeah, you know, I saw it again and like, thumbs down. So I'm just wondering, because, you know, I haven't watched it since that time. And that was over a year ago. And I've never disliked this movie. But I'm curious, like, where do you stand now?
I do not care for this movie. He said with a broad smile. No, this is the thing. I think I thought about you while I was watching it. I thought about your response to another little ditty we covered, Barbarian. And I had a very similar reaction. Barbarian is to Zack Cherry as I think Malignant is to me. We'll find out more so as we unpack it. But I like the opening. I didn't think like the opening was perfect or anything like that, but I did feel like it was very strong. I got very involved, what with the domestic abuse of it all, and then the strange, like almost supernatural dealings that we weren't quite let in on in the opening prologue and everything. And the more we watch, the more I hesitate to even use the word melodramatic, but melodramatic for starters, it starts to become, until it starts to become a little bit more ridiculous, a little bit more volcanic in feel, and that's fine. But it seems to kind of throw back to a time when, like an era of Hollow Man and Resident Evil, where we kind of like straddle quasi-horror with sci-fi with a little Hollywood action thrown in, you know. And
but you like that though.
I like those movies. There's something about the way it's handled here that I can't follow. And also I have to say, quite frankly, I feel this movie's impersonal. It invites some really heavy, intimate violations. And I can't tell at any given moment while I'm making my way through the movie whether I'm supposed to truly empathize with the characters or whether I'm supposed to just kick back and enjoy it. And because it opened so earnestly for me, I was on board with like the legitimate terror and the quasi supernatural with a question mark. Is that what's happening? What's happening in this house kind of thing? That by the time we start to get to some answers and certain things here and there that happen, by the climax, I'm kind of over.
Well, I remember
the back in my seat.
Yeah, the trailer for the movie really did make it seem like because this is James Wan. It was like the typical haunted house fare. There was, a presence inside her home, and that was, because it showed a lot of those, like when she would have the visions and the walls would dissipate and like new walls would come up. So there was a lot of that. So it did feel like it was a very supernatural haunting movie. And then, it turned out to be anything but. So it's interesting that you bring up Barbarian, because I agree. This is a very Barbarian-esque movie. Or should I say the Barbarian is very Malignant-esque. In the sense that they're both really based around sensationalism, because there's not really much of a story per se, but it's just a lot of crazy shit happening in both of these movies that I think, like, that's something that I've noticed lately that a lot of people glom onto. Like, people like The Cray, and it's sometimes it's, like, we're the type, like, just humans in general, we form opinions on things very quickly. And sometimes, like, if there is something flashy that's exciting and different that we've never seen before, we're likely to be like, oh, that was the best thing ever. And then slowly over time, that starts to wear away, and you give it a few more rewatches, and it's just because the shock value has already, like you can only be shocked by something once, and every other time you see it doesn't really have the same impact. So you're just kind of watching it for what it is without actually having like the impact of it. And I think that both Malignant and Barbarian probably suffer from that, because this, I mean, I was watching this just today, and I hadn't seen it since, I believe it was December of 2021, I guess.
Yeah.
So recently, no, when did it come out? Now I'm confused.
Didn't it come out 3 months earlier?
Yeah.
Like in August or
September?
September?
But I must have seen it after that, because I own I bought it on Blu-ray. But who knows? Like, they released those things so quickly. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I watched it, and I was having a good time with it. Like, I was having fun. Like, I think that the cinematography in this is beautiful. Like, I agree. Barbarian also had really good cinematography, but I think that Malignant has a much higher budget, obviously, so it's like really captures the full scope of what they could do here. But I was kind of just going through some of the story beats, and I agree that there's a lot of, like, it's just kind of weak. And this is one of those movies where, and similar to Barbarian, where there's a story and the characters are kind of based around it. And I think that, like, things that I prefer are when there's characters and that there's a story that's based around them. And you can definitely feel it, like, just like the more and more it goes on, it's so like plot driven. The only, like, there's a few things that why I would elevate this above a movie like Barbarian. First of all, Gabriel, who is like iconic in his own right. Like, deserves to be up there with the likes of, like, maybe not like a Michael or a Jason, but like maybe like a tier below that of just like just new horror IP where there's just like new villains that come in, and they're just they have such a presence and make such an impact that they're memorable for so long. Like, this is the kind of movie that I could see turning into a franchise, if they figure out the right footing to go forward, because Gabriel is like absolutely, like, if they do a Malignant, then we can definitely, like, I want to see more Gabriel. I want to, like, just the appearance of him alone, of just the fact that he's like this backward jointed black trench coat, long hair covering, like, and then like the bloody sort of, I don't even know how you would describe it, but it's like, it's gross, but it's kind of cool. And then the other thing that why I think this is better than Barbarian for me is that, there's the plot is always evolving. Like, I feel that there's a lot of times where it's very obvious, like, we know what's happening. Like, you could assume from the get-go that it's her. Like, it's just, I don't think that there was ever a doubt on anyone's mind that Gabriel wasn't her. But no, I don't think that anyone would have suspected that it was a parasitic twin that was like coming out of the back of her head. And
out the back of her. Yeah. And
especially because in the prologue, you kind of see it through the curtain, the plastic curtain. Yes. So you don't really know what this movie is about. So I feel like that just because the plot is constantly changing, and it's always throwing these twists at you throughout the movie, that is something that Barbarian does. But I feel like with Barbarian, like, it takes a step forward and then it takes 2 steps backwards, where I feel like this takes steps like sideways and then forward. Like, it's just like constantly going in all these places that I think, like, by the point of the movie where, like, I'm really hooked, because it was interesting up to this point, but like when they're sitting in the living room and they have the hypnotherapist, and she's doing her thing, and they unlock the memory, and then she has this like very, like you said, like melodramatic response to the fact that, she almost killed the baby in her mother's like pregnant stomach, and just like Gabriel did everything and I always got blamed for it. And it's just like, wow, like, this is I mean, I get it, but it's like it's so funny because this movie is taking itself so like the characters in the movie take it so seriously, but the source material doesn't take itself seriously. And I think that like James Wan has to have known that, like and Akilah Cooper, like they would have had to, they would have had to have been on the joke. And then literally immediately following that, we cut to like these establishing shots of Seattle where this rainstorm goes. And then little do we know, we're just go back to the same location with the woman in the attic as she falls through the floor. And then they're all just standing there. And then like, let's cue the remix of Where's My Mind, which in and of itself was just
Safari
like
Riot.
Super dramatic. Like, yeah.
And it plays for the third time at that point. It played after she told Sydney, I'm adopted. Boom. And the first time, because I have now come to associate that with us, because you accompany that when you edit together like little like promotional stuff for the Cherry Picker. That's oftentimes the accompanying music. I've come to associate with that. So I forgot it was in this movie. So when it happened for the first time, I was like, what? What the? Why is our music playing in Malignant? And why is it playing again and again?
Oh, just because I used it as a promotion for like this month because Malignant was one of our episodes.
Yeah. And that's happened before. It's good music for that. But for this, it was just kind of like so familiar in my head because I'm so accustomed to reposting those things that I, whenever I can. But I mean, again, like, that's where I'm like, this movie has a bit of I can't put it any other way, like a dissociative identity disorder, because at any given moment you can feel like you're watching something else. It's all, and I don't mean plot-wise. Like you said, I feel like it is absolutely plot-driven, sometimes at the expense of the personal, because one thing that I feel like I learned just from experiencing films before, and I've heard it echoed by many filmmakers ever since then, is that the best stories, or even the best constructed stories, don't always make the best films. Film is about experience and about shared experience, and if I can't empathize with or even be entertained by the experience that I'm seeing, then I just kind of feel like, well, look how talented the director is. Look at all the stuff he's doing. I'm not connected to any of it. I'm so impressed. But I mean, like, that's the thing. That's the problem is it's not like I'm not connected to any of it, because that would at least be consistency. But like, I think about what's like I said, the opening has a lot of things that work for me. You brought up the cinematography, and one thing that I love is it's one of the first... Still, it's one of the first kind of moments where Maddie's rushing around the house, and it's this bird's eye view shot that tracks her as she's racing around the house. And one thing that I love about it, I know I've had conversations with other people who felt like that was very technical and cold and disconnected, and not for me. For me, it made me feel like, God, she's just a rat in a maze. And when we panic and just rush around our houses, this is what we must look like to like God or to anyone who's in control of our situation. Like, we just look like lab rats, just like running around, making our way around a maze, and they're wondering, are we going to ever find the cheese, kind of thing. And it was chilling because it made her, she's suffering the heights of melodrama and she doesn't know what the fuck is going on, and yet it's such a small isolated corridor that she's just like navigating her way through. And I forgot about, like, what's horrific? I'll tell you what horrific is. Watching a woman scream, writhe, and sob at the loss of her pregnancy. I forgot that when she wakes up and Sydney's there at her bedside and everything like that, and she just kind of feels her stomach and just convulses, like, with these cries. That's not campy, and that's not melodramatic. That's just drama. That's trauma, like, so that makes me feel really, really, really bad for her. So then when, like, just a few breaths later, when she's like, Sydney, I'm adopted, boom, and there's other things like throughout that I don't know. I mean, it's not to the actresses. I forget her name, the one who played Madison.
Annabelle Wallace.
Annabelle Wallace, it's not to her detriment at all. I think she's a very capable actress, and I think she was like hitting home runs take after take with this movie. It just at least as far as the footage that I've been exposed to, I'm sure there's yards and miles of footage of her just being excellent in every take. The problem is the movie doesn't seem to care that much about her. I mean, it roots for her, it structures itself so that she can succeed ultimately and everything like that, but even that feels contrived in a way that I can't get on board with. I'm just kind of like, oh, the movie decided it's time for her to have some power now. Okay, good for her. I have no problem with that, but I'm just, my heart isn't in it, you know? It's kind of like, it's like getting really excited, like getting all dolled up and going on a date, and from the onslaught, it's really, really good, and then as the evening winds down, you find you have nothing in common, and this person, in fact, is kind of turning you off.
Wow.
That's my Malignant. I actually do prefer Barbarian to this one, because with Barbarian, even though Curveball City, you know, pulls you in every kind of direction, it always kept me guessing, but it always kept me completely consumed with who is this person, and I want to learn more about them. I didn't feel that with Malignant. So.
Well, I think, well, because you met, don't be sorry. You're entitled to your own opinion. Sorry. You're just not entitled to mine. But well, you mentioned the bird's eye shot of them running through the house. By the way, I love that house. Like it's such a gorgeous house.
Oh fuck yeah!
The
villa,
the living rooms and all that, because they're like double story, because you can kind of see, like, that's how they're able to kind of go through it. Like when I first saw it, I'm just like, how are they just like canceling out floors to show us like the level below? But like, no, that's actually the architecture of that house, because you can see when the mom falls through the ceiling later on. But just going up there, like I didn't think of it like the way you did, of just like kind of like a rat maze. But I definitely think that, you know, this was the idea for this was probably to infuse as much experimental cinematography and direction into it, because I noticed another thing, like every time we see the house, the establishing shot of the house, it's always a different angle or view of it, just to like it constantly feels like the movie is changing, not only with its plot but also just the way that it looks. And it's why I say it's so intentional. Like there's a scene later on when the sister is driving up to the abandoned mental facility, and she's she's literally right there. She's right. She's kind of coming around the bend. It's almost like it's kind of like the House on Haunted Hill Asylum, but there's also like a bit but there's also like a bit of The Shining in there, of just like going down this long stretch of road. Literally, it's the middle of the day, and she's pulling up to the hospital, and then the next shot, it's midnight, and she's drives up to the gate, or no, it's not even a gate. She's like parks on the cliff side.
The edge of the cliff, somehow knows exactly where to stop.
Yes, it's like
she drives off.
She could have gone even more. But it's just like everything about this was so intentional, of just like the way it looked. Like that's why I know that they knew what they were doing, and I think that it wasn't like however this script came to James Wan, he just looked at it and he's just like, this is like fucking ridiculous. This is crazy. I know exactly what I want to do with this, because it's like every technical idea he's ever had as a director that he's going to put into this movie, because it's just like a frenetic enough story that he can match like his style with that experience. And I'm not like a huge James Wan fan. Like he's obviously like a huge name in horror, and you know he's you know, started Saw, and you know has the Conjuring, which I'm not a huge fan of, but again I haven't seen it in a while. But
I like to shout out Insidious, one of my faves.
Yeah, but you kind of you know what you're getting with him. He is really good. Like he's kind of like the master of jump scares. Like I think he understands jump scares. I don't think that there was anything in this movie that was really a jump scare to me, but like it just going by his past works. So I think that maybe it was just one of those things, like it was a time for him when he realized, you know, people kind of have come to expect a certain product from me. And this is like my opportunity to fuck shit up and just show them like, no, I'm going to do something else. And I think that's what I really like about it. Cause it's like, it's him keeping himself relevant. But also, you know, like not compromising his, integrity or creativity, and still doing everything that like, I think maybe people who are like hardcore James Wan fans might not like this. I mean, I don't really, again, like I haven't talked to anyone about this movie for a while, but it feels like this is a movie that it's so random that people who probably like have different tastes of horror might like this, because I like this because it has kind of like within its sort of like turnstile of different subgenres that it goes through, because you mentioned how it goes into like the Hollow Man action territory at the end, but there's a point in it where it's also kind of giallo, of like this murder mystery slasher, and I think that that's probably when it's at its strongest for me, because it's that, but like infused with a supernatural angle, that it's, I mean, it would have been great to see a continuance of that movie all the way through the end, but it's also fun to know that like I said, just in terms of like comparing it to Barbarian, it's fun to know that you don't know what's coming next, and that, you know, it's constantly shifting its gears into something else.
I also have to, I have to say, I absolutely agree with you as far as the giallo aesthetic and everything. I really appreciated the fact that pretty much all the day scenes are completely desaturated, almost as though like there's nothing interesting here. Let's just get through this. Let's get some plot in or some exposition so we can move on to the night scenes, because obviously that's why we're here, and that's when we celebrate the goldenrod yellows or the murky blue greens. Like even whether we're in kind of like a more crafted, you know, like state, or whether we're in like the reality of, say, the precinct where, you know, like the detectives are and where they're holding up with all the cops. But and then of course the Argento red, which is like the most predominating color. That's the purest primary that I think we see in this movie. The
Silver Cup apartment buildings with the sign. All I could think of was that episode of Seinfeld where the fried chicken place opens up below Kramer's apartment.
Yes!
And they have the sign for it right outside his window, so he like never sleeps anymore, because it's just this like this huge bright like red lit sign, and it's fuck, what is he eventually, like, he goes down there because he had that like that fur coat made of rat fur, and just like, or it was like the hat, and just like started just like knocking it all over the place, and then it got shut down because rat fur got in all the chicken. Started to go off on a tangent there, but yeah, I thought it was so funny that this guy is like literally has his bedroom right in this like where this red light is. I don't even, did it make like a humming sound too?
I seem to remember one, but maybe I'm just imagining it. Maybe I just want it
like
to.
Did people?
But I feel like it would.
Did people like living in places like that with that kind of light?
I think it's unavoidable sometimes. I think if you want the space, you have to put up with certain things. But maybe
he had the window. He had the curtains open. Like he was full on.
Like, and also he didn't have like the whole sign. It wasn't like overpowering. It did create like this lovely, just kind of like red bake, you know, on everything. But and for those reasons, like I especially even there's the moment after that doctor. I can't remember his name. Because there's Dr. Weaver and then there's the man. Gregory. I don't remember his name. Dr. Gregory, that guy. After his death, and Dr. Gregory Fields, was that him?
I think it was just Dr. Gregory. I don't know. It's immaterial, as you would say.
Anyway, that guy. The guy who gets killed. There's a cue that I think is Joseph Bishara's, because he did the score for this one. I don't think he did the Safari Riot swell. No. But he did this incredible synth moment as like Shaw and Moss decide to investigate Dr. Gregory's home. And it was something that stood out to me. I was just kind of like, I don't really associate synth with this movie, and I don't know if it happened really ever again. I wish there could have been more of it. That might have I don't know. I mean, I have a very subconscious and I'm conscious of it now, but I think something happens to my body when I hear a synthetic score that is so obviously like electronic based.
Is this during the scene, like during the day when they go to the apartment?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, so the first
like
the guy the guy who has the red light in his bedroom.
Yeah, him.
Okay. Sorry, I was thinking of the other guy who was killed in the bathtub.
No. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, on the aesthetic, like I can appreciate that. I was worried from the onset because I full disclosure, I wasn't looking forward to sitting down for this one. I kind of hit play and dropped the remote and just went, okay, let's see what happens. I'm gonna try to just take the movie,
get some laundry done, do your.
No, I didn't get up. I paid attention. I was taking notes. I even paused a few times so I wouldn't miss anything as I was writing down my paragraphs. But one of the things that didn't happen that I was scared of happening was that ironically that the scares wouldn't work as effectively for me now that I know basically like all the secrets of the movie. I was afraid that it was just going to be very tedious. And the thing is that I have to say to James Wan and his team's credit and all the actors and everybody who's responsible, though every one of the scare sequences, even if they're not just kill sequences, but scare sequences work like on their own. Like I can sit through, if you could just string all those together and show them to me for the first time, I probably would have been really excited to see this movie. I would have been like, oh my God. Because it still spooks me out. I was afraid that it was going to be kind of spoiled, and I didn't think it was. I also couldn't remember how much Maddie remembered herself about like what happened. I was like, is she in denial, or is it all just kind of like a bad dream, or did they suppress it like Insidious style, like they do with Patrick Wilson, like where did they just hypnotize it out of her, or what happened? And it seems like kind of a mixture of all of it. Like she Another moment when I had to laugh was when she's just like, Gabriel, no! I think that's the other cue. Which is like the pulse underneath her. But I'm like, okay, so she reflexively knows to call out Gabriel. So there's some suppressed memories that maybe they thought they cut out when they cut out the cancer. But because that's another thing. Okay, it brings up all these logistic questions, which I know I shouldn't even be bothering with because it's pandemonium. It's high melodrama. It's a comic book, and I don't go to like many comic book movies folding my arms going like, I don't believe he can really fly, but with this one I did wonder like, okay, so he's existed inside her skull. This being, and I guess he's using her lungs to breathe, and I guess whenever she eats, but then we find out later in the movie when Sydney discloses it to Maddie that he consumed her fetuses, the children she was carrying. Feti? Is that what it is? Sounds like a kind of goat cheese. But no, that's feta. That's feta. So he consumes her feta, and that's what's caused like all of her miscarriages. Well, when I guess all the while she thought it was Derek, or maybe blamed herself or something like that. We don't really delve too deeply into that one, but so somehow he consumed them. So it just made me wonder, like, can the little face like move? Like just kind of like vanish from the back of her head and appear in her stomach and
well, I think it's stationary in her
morbid
skull. I think
so. Then how does it feed off of the children or the unborn would-be children?
Because they share the same body, so it just whenever
but she can't feed off of stuff in her stomach.
Well, from what I understand, like biologically, is that like whatever energy she's taking in is being absorbed by both of them, and that's why there's these feti inside of her. That's where he's kind of like drawing his strength from. And when the husband pushes her head against the wall, that's where like it cracked it open, which allowed for him to it's like a passageway. So it's I mean I can suspend disbelief for this movie because that's the thing. Like it was so they did the exposition in a way that was like, it was very illustrative, because every time they would, someone would say something and they would show like kind of like a flashback of a scene that we'd already seen earlier, or that we just didn't see that perspective of it, when it's just like, well, she's dormant. She doesn't realize that she's actually like, he puts her in this cell and she's just thinks that she's going about her business, whether it's doing laundry or, whatnot. Well,
Watching Malignant.
While he's out doing like parkour off the side of a building. Right. So I'm fine with it. Like I love the way that it was all kind of set up, and I agree. And you know what, you disclosed to me like the first time you saw this, you really did enjoy it. So I think that it is one of those movies that it's fun, but it's probably not something that most people are going to go back to again and again, because you, like I said, with that sensationalism, you lose a lot of the value of it after the first viewing. Because even there was one moment, and I think that it might have been in the trailer as well, but I remember distinctly seeing it in the movie the first time I saw it in the theater, when the husband is like kind of like walking around investigating, when like the blender goes off and the fridge door opens and he doesn't know what's up, and the TV turns on, and you can see like Gabriel sitting there for a second, but just because Gabriel's moving so fast, and I was still under the impression that this was like a supernatural haunting, because this is right at the beginning of the movie, and then you see the couch cushion rising up because something was sitting there. So I'm just like, oh, is Gabriel like a corporeal kind of ghost, like that could like is weighted and can like sit down on things? I just assumed that was like Gabriel slowly standing up off of the couch, because it was like, what is this story? Is like, did she manifest her evil imaginary friend and it like came to life? Like, because that's why this worked for me, because there were so many questions when I first saw it. And, obviously as it goes through, it becomes more clear what it is. But, that's why it worked for me on that first viewing, especially. But that's why I still appreciate it to this day, because, I can see it for what it is. And this is, I mean, as you would describe it, this is the kind of movie you screen for people. Because I know you don't need to watch the movie. You just need to watch the person who's watching the movie. So I think this might actually be a good movie for you to just be like, check this out, and don't mind me as I just like stare at you the whole time.
No, I just want to put out a disclaimer. I do not stare at people while they watch movies. There is such a thing as peripheral vision and the ability to hear what is going on to my right or to my left. Every now and then I will look at someone, but more often than not, they will be looking back at me like we are sharing an experience. That's what I look for. But I want to, this is a movie I would definitely, I think if I ever watch it again, it's going to be because someone either hasn't seen it and I'm like, you know what, I'll watch it with you, or someone loves it, desperately wants to watch it and wants me to give it another chance, in which case I'll be a sport. Sure, it's not, I don't think it's terrible. I just don't, it's not in my faves. But I mean, again, there are still little things here and there that I can myself glum onto. Like one of them that I really appreciated, when I still thought something supernatural might be happening, it still hooked me in, even though I was getting angry. I'll tell you in a second. But everything that we get into with her biological mother, I forget her name. I wrote it down somewhere here. Madison's
Jeannie or
mother.
Jeannie
May. Serena.
Oh, the
Serena
biological.
May.
Oh, sorry, I was thinking of the adoptive.
The biological mother.
Because I don't.
Oh, we'll talk about her We'll talk about her adoptive mother in a bit too. Jesus. But so Serena May.
Yeah.
Before we know who she is, when she's just kind of like someone who is wearing the same Fern Mayo wig as her biological daughter.
Hold on. Can we just talk about how like not only does the mother have the same hair, same hairstyle with the bangs and all that. But then she has it as a kid, and then she never she's like the Lisa Rinna of
yes,
like movie characters, where just like she's had the same hairstyle for the last 30 years. Yeah.
Yes, passed it down to her daughter. But that was okay.
They should have got. No offense to Annabelle Wallis, but they should have just got Lisa Rinna to play this role.
Oh my god, it would have been. See, then I would have been like, I know what movie I'm in. I would have watched that. I would have just had a gay old time. But anyway, love you, Lisa Rinna. But okay, so love you too, Annabelle Wallis. But anyway, this movie. I wanted to just touch on before I move into the Seattle Underground. Again, with the hair, maybe I'm just gross, but I wouldn't have minded if we would have gone full Cronenberg in some areas. I mean, again, just raised more questions and maybe added to the horror of it, the body horror of it. If before we ever get the reveal of Madison's skull and Gabriel back there, if at one point we can see her, you know, pulling a shirt on or a robe or getting out of the shower or something, and her hair maybe just kind of like sweeping it on the side to like, you know, dry it or something, and we can see the back of her, maybe like from the base of her neck and then like her back where Gabriel might have been, but we see like scar tissue, and then we're left to wonder, oh my god, did Derek do that? Or is that like, you know, like what could that possibly be? Was she badly burned? Like, what kind of hideous accident was she in? Did she get hit on the head and she's got her own dissociative identity disorder and she is Gabriel? You know, like all of that. It only would have heightened the stakes for me and the tension, which, you know, I'm all about tension.
I agree. That's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, thank you. I'll make my own Malignant, but anyway. But another thing that I did appreciate that I won't criticize is when we first encounter Serena May as the tour guide for the Seattle Underground. I love the motif of her introducing these people to this new city built on top of old Seattle after a tragedy. I just felt like, oh, okay, that's just like your daughter. Like, they tried to cover it up, like, you know, Pentimento style, and just make it into something else while whatever existed that's buried beneath it continues to exist. And that's where she actually gets abducted. I thought that was incredible.
Is that a thing, like, in Seattle? Because I don't know anything about the city or history.
I'm the wrong person to ask. I've been to Seattle, but I literally spent, I think, about 16 hours there, and I learned nothing. I just went to Pike's Place, and I ate some really fresh fish, and I am not a fish lover, but oh my God, you have to eat the fish that they catch at the Pike's Market. Oh my God, it's so good. That's all I know.
Right.
And it rains. And it rains all the time. And
and
Frasier took place there. No, but
and Grey's.
Yeah. But
that's been going on for 30 years too.
It's about time.
Yeah.
But I did want to ask you something, because it was frustrating, but not like in a way that I'm frustrated about this as a filmmaker. They should have done this in a different way. I was just frustrated as like, woman, are you crazy? Serena May. We don't know who she is yet, but we know she's a tour guide who's like closing up for the night.
Right.
If you were to close down an environment like the Seattle Underground alone at night and hear noises coming from the dark, would you go alone without calling anyone? Would you just go in and just be like, excuse me, we're closed, after you're hearing tick, 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 and all the clicky and the something's moving there and everything? I was just, Serena, what would you do if you were Serena?
I mean, horror movies have got a horror. You know?
No.
Okay, I looked up the trivia on Malignant. The first thing that came up was the Seattle Underground is a real tour open to the public.
Okay,
that's
that.
That's all that's there.
I'm not doing that haunted shit. I'm all for the let's go into the movies and get scared. My sister loved to go on those Ghost Adventures trips and everything like that, and I'm like, no, shit's gonna follow you home. Fuck that. And even if it doesn't, you might think it did, and then you're gonna fuck your mind up for like months. No, I'm not into it. What about you? Would you do like ghost tours and shit?
Absolutely.
Ah! All right.
I love that kind of shit.
Oh, it scares the crap
You should know that about me by now.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask.
So the scene later when like following the parkour, when they kind of go into that subterranean thing. Is that also part of the underground? Because there's all those like old style carriages there. I just assume.
Okay, let me tell you. I mean, I would assume as much.
Yeah.
But the thing that got me there was just the fact that it felt like we were watching Shaw go into the further, but it was like, you know, from Insidious, because it looked just like it with like a kind of like the blue-green mist and everything like that, and the darkness and whatever.
We
but
just
it felt
needed
like
a cameo from Lin Shaye.
But it was like the further if you were to like find yourself, you know, interdimensionally somehow aboard the hull of the Titanic or something, what with all the old cars and everything like that. But I mean, I'm sure it was just Seattle Underground.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got that was another thing where I'm just gonna like, oh, James Wan hitting this note again. Okay, seen this before in another franchise that I prefer. But I do. Oh, but prior to that, the fire escape sequence where Shaw's chasing Gabriel down the side of the building. Oh my god, I thought that was incredibly shot, and I thought it was just not even frenetic. I felt like it was kinetic. It was just so. It was a high voltage scene that just seemed fully charged, and I was just kind of like, God, I love these moments, but I think the problem where the movie starts to get away from me, another thing, is just at one point I feel like the camera really doesn't stop moving. Even in still scenes where people are just kind of like regarding things, the camera is slowly kind of like panning, you know, or like moving from one side of the room to the other while staying on the same face, catching it at different angles, or slowly pulling in or slowly pulling out. And I just every now and then require a breather. I just need things to settle and for people to get to confer and laugh, chuckle, feel comforted by each other, you know, something before the big bads.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, there's that. You could definitely use a little bit of variety, like a start-stop. I didn't mind it all that much. I was actually thinking of Army of Darkness of all things, because of that. Like we were just talking about, like, what is like Sam Raimi doing with the camera in like 95% of that fucking movie, and it almost felt like that here, but it was just like it felt like it just worked within the context of like everything that was happening. Whereas in that movie, Army of Darkness, it was just like it really was just like a little too all over the place. Like that was frenetic for me, and both. It's funny because both of these movies are kind of like comic book style. Like you can definitely get that. Whereas like that is like full on like cartoon comic book. I'd say that Malignant is more like a graphic novel type of like comic experience. Like a dark graphic novel. I like you were mentioning the just the fire escape. I love how he kind of like yeets himself off the side onto the dumpster just to roll over.
Yes.
Like he took such a beating, and okay, I didn't realize this, but his fate is left unknown. Because I figured, like, I've seen this like 3 times now, I think, but I just assumed that he survived. And in this one, he kind of got like the Kirby Reed, where like the last time we saw him, he was just writhing on the floor, like he had the award blade in his shoulder, and I was just like, oh, why didn't we check back with him? But I was sure that he survived, so I don't know. We'll have to wait for a No, I'm gonna stop doing that. But
I mean, George Young is the actor who plays Shaw, and I know I didn't recognize him from this when I saw it.
Cacao.
His most recent triumph was in that Lindsay Lohan Netflix Christmas movie where they rip off Overboard, where she's really rich and then she loses her memory and she becomes poor with a family, and
you
one
have
of
to
the
give
kids
me a title.
I don't remember. It was one of those Netflix. It just came out like this last Christmas, as of the recording of this pod. Like I don't remember, but it's not Single All the Way, because that's the one from the year before, the gay one with Michael Urie, but they did another one where she falls in love with Guppy Face from Glee, and George Young plays
Falling for Christmas.
Yeah, that's probably it. And George Young plays her like the guy she's with, who she shouldn't be with.
Right.
And
Jack Wagner's in it.
Yeah, he plays her father.
Dr. Peter Burns, Melrose Place.
Yeah, Melrose Place, represent. But and George Young was actually, I think, one of the strongest things about the movie, because every time we went back to him, he was like the comic relief, and I thought he did a really, really good job. So then when I realized, because I looked him up, like, who is this guy? And I realized he's Shaw from this movie. I was like, oh, well, good for him. Like, versatility already, because I never would have suspected that guy gave this performance. So,
well, I mean, I think that every performance in this movie is a comedic performance, because there is a certain level of comedic timing that comes with everything. Like the exchange that we keep going back to of like, I'm adopted. Because it's like, even the sister's just like, what are you talking? Because she's like, all my life I've yearned for a blood connection that I've never had. She's like, what are you talking about? Well, maybe not like that, but she's just like, Sydney, Mom never told you I'm adopted.
But I also gotta say, I do appreciate Sydney. I think she's probably the easiest character to empathize with in this movie. I mean,
the first time we see her, she's like in a full-on princess gown.
I mean, I have a friend who does that, who does princess shit at like, little girls' birthday parties and stuff like that. Like she's dressed up as Elsa and sang "Let It Go" with all the kids in the room and stuff. So I know it's not a glamorous life, but she captured that. Just this struggling actress, but also just like this, she's probably the most benevolent force in the entire movie, which makes her a welcome change for me, because I feel like I think she does everything right, pretty much. I can't really criticize any of the words that come out of her mouth. I feel like everything that she says is supportive and like, yeah, you're a good sister. And so I appreciate that about her. Oh, okay. So that's her adoptive sister. Her adoptive mother. Okay. All I can say is, if your daughter, whether she's bio, adoptive, surrogate, whatever, if any woman you know has suffered any kind of loss of her pregnancy for whatever reason, by whatever means, and
I know where you're going.
The way
with
she
this.
and she walks up to you, and the first thing you say is, "You look skinny." You're a horrible person. And if anyone who's listening made that mistake, I'm sorry. I don't really mean you're a horrible person. But I think, what an insensitive thing to say, I think is what I'm trying to say. Like, do you not know anything about like where she just came from? Or did Sydney not prompt you on like kind of like where they're at right now?
In defense of the Lake family, is that what is established when we do meet Sydney, because they tell her like, she suffered 3 miscarriages, and she's like, oh my god, I didn't even know. I didn't even know she was pregnant, because her husband kept like, wouldn't let the family see her. That's what they said. Typical. So I mean, I imagine that like the mom lives all the way out in the countryside, they never see her, sort of thing. So who knows? I mean, she did bring the casserole from the mom, so like she must have known. So yeah, you're right. The mom had no reason to be saying that. Mom's a bitch. Contender for cherry picker. I do love the scene though when they're like watching the videotapes of like that they're recovered from the facility, and when we first see Gabriel, it's like on the back of her head, just sort of like that, the little like chicken embryo or whatever you want to call it, and just like I love that it shows their reaction, and they're just like, like, what? It's like a mix of disgust and just like horrified. It was really great. But I'm kind of stuck on something now, because you mentioned Elsa, or just like the princess and all that, and I'm just thinking like, if this was a Disney musical, what would I keep forgetting her name. What would Madison's song be? Like, what would her ballad of like just anything that's like pre-existing?
Let Me Go. Let It Go, but to the tune.
I just did like
Let It Go. The tune of Let Me Go, but to Let Me Go.
Let Me Go.
Because she's just such an outlier. She just keeps kind of like taking things on and going off and doing her own shit and everything. Like, her sister doesn't know what's going on with her. She's barely catching up, you know. And then finally, when she has some information, she can only really kind of present it at the climax when she's about to die. But I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know.
My
knowledge is not... Well, okay. Well, what's like the Mulan one where she's just like, who is that girl I see?
Girl I... Standing here back at me. When will my reflection?
Well, because remember when she's on the phone
inside? Yeah.
That's perfect. But remember when she's on the phone with Gabriel, and they're like she's in the washroom, and she's got her back to the mirror, but there's like a real emphasis of like the camera showing the back of her head in the mirror, so it's like.
Oh my god!
I could almost see like behind the hair, like Gabriel is like. Talking, he's like ghost
or harmonizing with her. Yeah, she's like, "Who I am inside," and he's like, "Inside." Oh, that was another thing. Okay, you haven't seen it yet, but now you kind of have to just to get the reference, because one of the things that I had forgotten about was Gabriel's voice, and it's such a throwback to Winslow of Phantom of the Paradise. Who is basically the Phantom, like once he becomes the Phantom.
Week or the week before,
yes, because I'm obsessed. I fucking love that movie. But he has this like this voice distortion that makes him sound electronic also, and it sounds almost exactly like Gabriel. Just that kind of I can't even do it, you know. But it's I feel like it has to be some kind of a nod because it's too close. It is absolutely too close to Winslow, and I'm just kind of like, if I ever meet James Wan, that may be the only question I want to ask him. Is so, Gabriel's voice is Winslow, and he'll just go, "Hey!" I'll be like, "Okay, cool. I like you the movie now." But
I mean, maybe you will. Like, does he live in Los Angeles?
Probably, yeah. I'll probably find him.
Well, you've run into so many people. I mean, well, you ran into Heather Locklear and not Locklear, Langenkamp. Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would have.
We were talking about Melrose Place. But yeah, Langenkamp and Amanda Wiss.
Amanda Wiss
that we talked about when we did A Nightmare on Elm Street, which I mean, like,
so kind,
bucket list goals. So
yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, we'll come out here. We'll go see a screening at the Egyptian, and we'll eat at what was the name of the Italian place? The one with the singing waiters. You'll hate it. It'll be great.
Oh God, yeah.
Anyway,
watch me like all jump up on the table and start singing. They'll like throw us.
There you go. Yeah. We'll get some red wine in you. Yeah. But also, I did appreciate the appearance, brief appearance of McKenna Grace as Emily May, young Maddie. When
that name sounds familiar. Who's McKenna Grace?
McKenna Grace she should be familiar. She's kind of young everybody in a bunch of movies. She was in The Haunting of Hill House, and she played young Theo in the sister. Okay, she was also young Tanya Harding in I, Tonya, the Margot Robbie movie. She's young Sabrina in the Sabrina Teenage Witch new Netflix series. And she's young, you probably haven't seen this one either, and she's young Carol Danvers in Captain Marvel. And
I saw that.
But what you probably know her from, actually, she was the girl in that other shitty Annabelle movie. Not the first Annabelle, but I think the third one. She's the girl in that. And she always gives a really, really good performance. She's been in some shitty movies, but she's a damn good actress and kind of always has been. She's one of those kids who, she's older now, but like when she was a kid, like you could tell there's like an old soul behind those eyes. Like she just seems
like a Dakota Fanning type.
Yes, very present.
Whatever happened to her? Like, I know
adult.
Dakota Fanning is still doing things, but I will always remember her as like the little kid. Like I could not, like if I saw Dakota Fanning now, I'd just be like, no, there's no way. You know, you did not age past like 10.
Right. I Am Sam was your first and last movie. But no, she... I just
Annabelle
saw
Comes
her in
Home
something.
is the one that you're...
That one, yeah.
Yeah.
But just because now I'm curious, because I just saw Dakota Fanning in something, and now it's going to bother me because it was great because she was... Oh! Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That's the last thing, the most recent thing I saw her in.
Right.
And she played one of the Manson girls. Oh my God, she was so fucking freaky. Yeah. I will tell you, Dakota Fanning, as a child, adorable, insightful, spiritually, mature and everything like that. But as she's grown up, I think it started with Twilight, and I feel like if she wants to play the crazy card for the rest of her career, she could. Yeah. She could and live happily off of the the finances. She gives good crazy.
I think it was called Hide and Seek. It's where she plays Robert De Niro's daughter, and Famke Janssen is in it. It's like the therapist.
No.
We should do that movie one time, actually. That'll be like a good like single white female type like filler episode.
Wow. Okay, I'm done.
We have nothing else to do. Elizabeth Shue is in it too.
Oh my God! Okay, I'm down. I'm totally down. I said done before, but I am down. And then I'll be done. But anyway, I just wanted to call out. That's another small good performance.
Yeah, I remember her in that in Once Upon a Time, because I've only seen it once. But there's like a lot of cameos, we'll say, for the like the Manson girls, because I like Danielle Harris is one of them.
Yeah.
And
Amber
Thurman's
from
daughter. Well, she's not a cameo. She's like the full on.
Yeah, she's pretty heavily featured. Yeah, she's
basically
one of the major ones at the end.
Yeah, she was a better Ghostface killer in that movie than in Scream.
Hateful.
I know I hate Amber, but Malignant.
Yes, so
speaking of hateful characters, let's just talk about the husband. Let's just get him out of the way, because who
Derek.
The fuck? Okay, first of all, how are they even a couple? Because I remember I asked you, like, are they married? Because I guess they are, because she has his last name, but it's just like, in what? I can't imagine, and maybe this is just the detriment of like how poorly written the characters are here, because I can't see who like these people are and how they ever came together. Like he's like a nothing character that's on the screen for like a minute, but this always baffled me, because like, okay, I think that she's a nurse. Is that her job? Yeah. So she's like comes home. She appears to be the only one working in this family. Yeah. Because he's just like sitting home all day watching, is it NASCAR or wrestling?
Oh, I don't even remember.
Something.
Who cares?
Something that he like really loud and obnoxiously.
Yeah.
That's just like, there's a TV downstairs. Like, just fucking watch it. Like, why are you watching it in your bed?
You're tired.
He probably had his shoes on too. People that have their shoes.
Oh God! And his tired pregnant wife just comes home from a full shift. All she wants to do is lay down and relax, because she's suffering, some discomfort and everything like that. Totally understandable. And I agree with you. But I think, not to get too, and I don't want it to sound like I'm judging her at all. But this is
judge.
No, I'm not judging her.
No,
I don't judge people in that. No, I don't judge people in this position. But what I will say, without judgment, is I feel like whatever led her to the moment she met him, damaged her and just caused her to crave that blood connection so much that, like, I think at that point, whoever is willing to stick around with what she perceives as her own shit, and this is headcanon, here we go. Yeah. Whatever she perceives as someone who is like going to put up with her, because she probably sees herself as the problem in any given potential relationship. The fact that he would stick around and endure it, maybe she felt like she deserved, the violence that was coming at her and everything like that. Because also, it didn't even need to get physically violent for it to be an assault, because the fact that like one of the first things he says to her is, maybe you need to stop being pregnant, when she's talking about like how she's not feeling well, and I'm like, what the? Okay, so you have no part in this, and what an insensitive thing to say to a woman who is carrying your child. And
the thing with him though is because like he's a piece of shit, but that was like his only character trait. Yeah. Like, it was just like, that's the thing. Like, that's what made it so ridiculous. I mean, maybe that's just part of the camp of the movie for me, because like they would never, you know, give this character any more dimension than that of, you know, like the abusive husband who's about to get killed off. But it was just, it felt so unrealistic to me that it just like, she comes home and she wasn't being like antagonistic in any way at all, but he was just like he was ready for a fight. And it didn't seem like she doesn't seem like the kind of person that, you know, does that. Even if you're like in your headcanon of her just kind of like acquiescing and just being like putting up with the abuse, like it just felt like processed drama. Like we just needed to have something happen. And, you know, they probably could have gone about it in a more organic way to the script, but
totally, again,
it just like, it is what it is, because it's like the movie's just doing whatever the fuck it needs to, because it's the characters are just incidental. It's like the story that happens.
Well, also her sensibility, I have to question to a point, just because, not because she, you know, she's in a relationship with him alone, but also because of what transpires after the fact. The fact that after he slams her head in and she has, he immediately apologizes because he sees like, oh shit, blood, I really fucked up. I guess I shouldn't have hit you that hard, is the spirit I got from him. And he rushes out to go get something to help her. And that's when she takes the door and locks it and everything like that. And I'm just kind of like, think about where you are. Think about where your unborn child is. And you think about your pregnancy. And then also the fact that I think she lays down. Is that what happens? I can't even remember.
Well, yeah, she's concussed at that point, and she just
right. So being the medical professional she is, she knows the first thing you should do when you're concussed is go to sleep, not stay awake, not call someone else like an ambulance to come and like take you in and get you checked out and make sure your head is bleeding and whatever.
Well, I mean,
you know,
well, technically, because if we're going by what we find out later, is that maybe she didn't go to bed, but Gabriel, you know, made her, you know, imagine that she went to bed, because that's when he went downstairs and turned on the blender and was fucking shit up. Okay.
But yeah, he's not around long enough. Derek isn't around long enough for us to develop anything beyond you're a piece of shit. But he served his purpose, and again, I was still with her at that point. Yeah. But you're right. I guess it does have some kind of like half-baked Rob Zombie-esque, you know, quality as far as his level of animosity, and that there's no real level.
Like I mean, not that I'm animosity. Like, because you know I'm not a huge fan of Rob Zombie, but like I wonder what this movie would look like in the hands of like different directors. Like I want to see like Rob Zombie's Malignant, or you know, like John Carpenter's Malignant, or, you know, even like
Dario
Argento's Malignant, or Radio Silence's Malignant, or just, you know, just throw, you know, anyone out there, just like, what would their vision of this movie be? Because I mean, maybe like James Wan, I mean, like I know he developed this with the writer and his wife. His wife actually is in the movie. She plays the what would you call her role, as the like forensics technician or something like that? Yeah, the one with the glasses who was like, she was just very like peppy and just like, oh, check this out, this is so cool
and really into Shaw. Totally into Shaw also, which was cute. But never went anywhere.
Well, she survived though, so she'll be back for the next movie, I'm sure.
Right.
Here, okay, how about this? What do you think? How do you think Gabriel would come back in a sequel? I'm curious.
I mean, okay, because we know, just given the way it ends, that like she can't hold on forever. I mean, she could. I mean, I'd hate to think that she just suffers another head trauma that just unlocks him or dislodges him or something. But you know what would be? I think what would be interesting, because I'm not completely opposed to the notion of attending a sequel of this movie. One thing I would like to see is, what if there's some kind of James Wan Avengers like kind of team up movie where they have to like bring in like Lin Shaye's ghost and And I don't know, like Annabelle, I don't know, but just like bring in some forces to like combat some greater evil or something. And they need someone to get in places that I guess like only Gabriel can because of his strength and everything. Like, because Maddie, even though it was always her body the whole time and she lifted the bed and everything like that, can she do all that tumble shit down a fire escape, one after another down the side of a building? Probably not.
So
not
is
without,
this like the
parkour.
Suicide Squad, just like having Gabriel like come in?
Well, because this is the thing. If she needs him, I think it would be most interesting if for whatever reason, it doesn't have to be a Suicide Squad thing, but if they did, I'd be on board because I want to see a movie where she needs Gabriel for some reason.
Yeah.
And they find some way to, they think, control him. And maybe they almost get to the finish line, just like it's in sight. And they're, oh, wow, pre-celebrating. Like, we're almost done. Like, Gabriel just has to not fuck us over. And then, of course, what happens? Gabriel fucks them over. I would like to see something like that, probably. What about you? Do you have an idea?
No, I mean, that's it. Well, that's an interesting idea because I'm just like, you can take that and you can put it in any other scenario. Like maybe she is involved in a real home invasion or like a hostage situation or something. And it's almost, and she's there with her sister and just like, okay, I know you said you never would, but I think we need Gabriel in this situation. And then just have like Gabriel come out and do his thing, but maybe that could even be like the opening scene of the movie, and then just like, oh, I've unlocked this door now, and now he can come back out at any time, or even like the idea of them teaming up and working together, like you said, would be interesting, but no, I was thinking more like I was just going with like the ridiculousness and thinking more like, because she still like possibly will want to try to have a kid, and I can see a scenario where whatever, because we found out that the mother like she was raped by a serial killer, like some criminal, like I think that's what the story was. So I could see like a thing where she finally has a baby. And then it's the same situation, like the baby has a thing on its back, and then we find out that Gabriel was able to move into the the new
piggyback.
Yeah, and then we find out that Gabriel existed before, like Gabriel was already in like the father before that happened, and there's like a long lineage of parasitic twins who are like hosts. So it's just like
that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, Gabriel just like keeps living on in these children. So now her child is it's born into them. But it would have to be this like weird like flash forward, because the kid would like it wouldn't be like in the baby. I mean, I guess they would maybe see it in the baby when it comes out. But I was thinking more of like they don't discover until like the kid's 10 years old, just so it's like more developed and can possibly do parkour off of a building.
That might be cool too, like the dream child. But it's funny because as you were describing it, you also
it's
just
a
made
boy.
Me think. Yeah, right.
It's like Gabriel. It's a boy.
But you made me just think like what I'd really like to see is, because I don't want Maddie to be completely devoid of power in this dynamic. So one thing that she did learn that she could do also is manipulate Gabriel's atmosphere the same way he manipulated hers to make her think it was her immediate reality when really it's just a smokescreen. Yeah. If she could find a way to harness his aggression and his energy by creating an alternate universe where he thinks, let's say he's fighting her and fighting Sydney and all of that, when really he's defeating, I don't know, bank robbers or terrorists or something like that. So it's continually this reality that they're battling over to try and shroud each other in. And she's gotten so adept at it that he's just lashing out at anything and really doesn't know that he's even doing good. That gives her some power in the dynamic too, which I actually would appreciate. So thank you for making me think of that. Now, if I don't get that, I'm going to be pissed.
No, it's just going to be them in like the Matrix.
Right.
Nothing is real. Do you have a favorite scene in the movie?
A favorite.
Well, because I was gonna say like I don't.
To you?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I have like a favorite scene because it's more so just like a string of like the plot going everywhere. But I do really appreciate the like the prison cell.
Oh God, how did I know you were gonna bring that up?
Because it's so like, first of all, like who are these hookers? There's like the one women. Who's like she's literally just like stepped out of a time machine from the 1970s.
From the 70s.
You've got, it's actually Zoe Bell playing like the main, like the ringleader called Scorpion. And I mean, I don't know if you remember Death Proof.
Oh,
she was in that. She was the one that was like hanging off the hood of the car. She was Uma Thurman's stunt double in Kill Bill. So, and I didn't realize it was her when I first saw the movie because, like, you know, they make her look really like rough. Like she's got the mullet and the jean jacket. But I just I love like this. It's probably the campiest moment of the whole movie because she's like throwing all these like women at her, and of course there's like arms going through like torsos, arm. There was a lot of like, it was like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022 of like arms just kind of like snapping and like the bones stick, like they did it at the beginning of the movie too. But, yeah,
only ridiculous.
And even like the people who did the stunts in this movie, because like I guess like the ones who had to like be Gabriel and do like the double jointed thing and walk that way, like that takes a crazy level of like physical prowess and talent that, I mean, like that's another thing. Like this movie is very technically impressive, and I think that's why another reason not to go back to Barbarian, but why I would prefer this over that one.
Okay. I gotta say that whole jail cell sequence, I don't find as much favor with it as you do, just because the fact that like by this time we've completely stripped our characters of any dimension to the point where it's just like, we're bad women in a jail cell. We're going to be aggressive because reasons.
What did she said something about like, did you lose your membership to the country club or?
Yeah, something like that. Like, what are you doing in here? Did you lose your membership to the country club?
It's, I mean, like the Haddonfield police station.
Oh my God! Just the street urchins of Haddonfield have inhabited this Seattle prison, not prison, jail. But I also, by the time Gabriel like breaks out and goes all John Wick on the precinct, I'm completely checked out by that point. But because I'm even wondering at that point, like, wouldn't Gabriel prefer? I mean, Gabriel has a very tiny crevice that he sees the world through outside the back of Maddie's skull. Yeah. And he's got all that long hair covering his face, and it just made me wonder, like, doesn't he ever need a hair tie? I mean, granted, it would probably block Maddie's face for him to sweep it all away from, you know, his periphery, but I think that he might like that. I think that, wouldn't that be hilarious if like one of these times Maddie wakes up and she's just got a wall of hair, like, you know, with a hair tie covering her mouth. She's like, and just has to, you know, reposition her Judy Greer wig from Jawbreaker.
I want to see like, you know, just like artists, how they do those, just like kind of like comic book strips of just like these characters from horror movie, like I.B. Trav on Instagram is a really good one. He does a lot of those things, but just like something like that, but just showing like, because he does the Scooby-Doo ones, which are great, and I think he did one for Gabriel as well. If you can find it, just look him up on Instagram. But just to see something of just Gabriel sitting in like a salon chair and them like giving him maybe like a nice updo or something, just to clear the hair.
Split ends. Yeah, let's just get that. Let's just get the ends even. We'll even them out, and we'll just give you, you know, maybe they could give Gabriel a Farrah, you know, where they just cut a triangle,
like a feathered
like from and just flick it back, just get it to flick back, and that way it's not, you know, bounce, behave, bounce, and then you have much more fashionable. But I know that's not probably.
Or
not
I mean, even
Gabriel.
even like maybe like the Gale micro bangs, you know.
Oh my God!
Keep him out of his
I
face.
never knew. I never knew I wanted something so badly. IB Trav, if you're listening.
No, all you have to do is get, like, just Photoshop, just, like, take a picture of, like, find a picture of Gabriel, and then just take, like, the Gale hair, and just put that over top of Gabriel's face.
I want a t-shirt. And that's the only way I'm going to ever want a Malignant tee, is if I get to see Gabriel with Gale Weathers scream 3 bangs. Oh my God, that's incredible. But I guess one other thing that I do appreciate about this movie, there's a couple things. I actually do like the dynamic between Shaw and Moss. Like, I think that, again, 2 really, really good actors. I love that Moss is like, at one point, isn't she hovering over a corpse, like discussing what they should do, and she's sucking on a lollipop. It looks like a blow pop or something. And I'm just kind of like, yeah, that's my kind of detective. But
I love that, like, because she gets like sliced in the torso, and it didn't seem like it was really deep because she was still like able to move around. Like, she picked him up, and they were like running for the door. But he like full on had his arm broken, and they're just like, and that's when James Wan's wife comes in, and they're just like, oh, she's going to the mother, or like Gabriel's going to the mother, and Moss or Reg as there's just like K and Reg is what they call each other, just like, this is all on you, you got to do it, and it's just like, he's got a broken arm. You have like a slice. you have like a scratch. Really, it was just like a surface wound. But
good old fashioned sexism. That's sexism.
He already did so much. He threw himself over the side of that fire escape and down that underground thing. Yeah, she was fully capable. It's just that as soon as she laid down, you know, when you're like, your adrenaline's going, but then once you sit down, you're kind of winded and you're like, okay, I can't do anymore.
Oh, I don't even need my adrenaline to be running for that to be true. I can just sit down.
Yeah, that's true as well. For most of us. But I mean, it was just funny that it was like one of those like very plot contrived things where she's just like, you're gonna have to do this now. And it's just like, or maybe like neither of us. Like, we got pretty lucky. Like Gabriel just killed 50 people in this room, and we're still alive with like some serious injuries. Maybe let's just like hang back and be like, it's okay, you know?
Yeah.
There's a certain limit where it's just like, wait, like, just risk versus reward, you know?
Right. But you already addressed Serena May when she like crashes through that ceiling. And I do have to say, like, to the movie's credit, everything that leads up to that moment I'm enjoying, because it's the most actor kind of based we've been, where it's like, okay, we've got characters in a room and they're talking about what happened, and you know, there's almost something that I can glom onto. But I really, really appreciate the misdirect of Serena May falling through. You know, we cut away to the city and then we cut back to her and she falls through that ceiling. And because even though I remembered it and I was expecting it to happen this time, so it wasn't the same impact the first time it happened. First time it happened, it blew my mind. But this time it's memorable is the point. Like, and I don't. It's not memorable in the way it's like, oh, and this is the part where I'm just gonna like, fuck this I like this. You know, I may not have been able to articulate it to myself at the time, but I appreciated it. I thought like, okay, that's a good case of like mystery, because even just like where she is, the fact that we don't know where she is, we assume she's remote from all of them. In like a clock tower, it seems like, you know, the way it's all
like
shuttered.
The big fan, yeah,
and the shafts of light coming through at her and everything like that, and just the I don't know, like it almost feels like a belfry that this old bat Gabriel has, you know, like squatted in.
Yeah, I mean, like if they didn't cut away like to like outside and just like all those shots over the city to only go back there.
Yeah.
All I can imagine is that it would have felt like Scream again at the end when Neil Prescott comes like crashing out of the closet and they all scream.
Oh,
like they would have just been sitting, like, because this is how it would play out. They would just be sitting there And she'd be like, I didn't do anything, and like Gabriel did all of it, and I got blamed. And then all of a sudden, like silence, and then you just see in the other room, body falls.
Oh my god, that would have been amazing too. If that would have just happened, and then all of a sudden we do like a redirect, like the camera is a bird's eye view of like where Serena May fell, and we just pull back through one floor after another to reveal that she was up there in the attic the entire time. Oh, now I would have liked that better. So
I mean, what they could have even done is like they could have started at that scene like in the attic when she was like getting herself out of the ropes, and then was like kind of working on, once she had her hands free, was working on like the ones around her waist, but then cut to the stuff with the hypnotherapist in the living room, and then had her fall through after that, like during that scene, and then they could have done the bird's eye view that you go up and then you see it was the same attic. That would have, because that would have worked probably more effectively. Like it wouldn't have felt as broken up. But I mean, but I do appreciate how it is broken up, because it adds again to the craziness of it all.
Yeah.
Maybe they did try it both ways, and James Wan at the end was just like, no, do this because it's so fucking stupid. Like, it's just...
Also, one thing that I got to realize about myself is it's frustrating for me to watch a character who doesn't not reach out if I don't understand why they're not. You know what I mean? Like the fact that we see Maddie isolating for as much of the film as we do, right. And then kind of raving a little bit about like what's going on with her. It's like, well, you weren't talking to us just a little bit, now you're coming in here like, I don't know, it's my imaginary friend, I mean, she doesn't say that, but you know what I mean. It's hard, like you hit it on the head when you brought up the word sensationalism, because relatively early in the film on this reviewing, I had to wonder, like, was this intended to be melodrama, or was it intended to be sensationalistic? Because sensationalistic is just this side of fetishistic, if that's a word, or it fetishizes, I feel, sometimes some of the violence, because if it's not taking it that seriously, then what are we doing? I mean, like, I'm all for shows of violence being campy, like if someone kind of pushes someone down onto some furniture and they fall like like dramatically, and in a kind of like over dramatic fashion, where they're just kind of playing the like the violence of it. But I mean, there's something very visceral about it to a point, and then all of a sudden it starts, I just lose I lose my footing with this film. So that's all I gotta say.
That's fair. So is that it? Do we have anything else to say?
I think I'm done. Okay. What about you?
No, I think that we covered as much as this is possible. If anything comes up, I'm sure it will during the cherry picker. So actually, that's a really good opportunity for us to get to the cherry picker.
It's not like we kill people on purpose.
All right, first order of business. Do we have a cherry on top?
Do you enjoy the movie more than I do? So I'll go with.
I mean, I'm trying to. Well, because I know who you would probably mention, and I just feel like the sisters, like, such a boring choice. Like, there's got to be something. There's got to be someone more entertaining in this, and like that's the thing, because like how we were saying, like this is a movie that is a story, like it's a concept, and the characters exist around it. So it's really hard to like pick a best character. Like I would honestly just go for Gabriel.
We're going with the heavy. Yeah. Okay. I mean, but okay.
I mean, what do you have a
I don't. I mean, I said I like Sydney, and I do, but does that mean she's cherry on top? I mean,
I don't think she is.
I don't think so either. I think she's great. I like her. I hope she's in the sequel. But
if there is a sequel,
I would argue there is none. I would argue there will be, but I would, because this movie did well enough.
I don't know it did. I don't think it did well at all.
Oh, really?
I don't think so. I think it did okay. But
well, I mean, it did okay because also, wasn't it simultaneously streaming? Wasn't it? Didn't it open when movies were still? Wasn't it one of the ones that was available on HBO Max?
It might have been, yeah. Because this was right before Kills.
Yeah.
Halloween Kills, that is.
Yeah. I know what you're saying.
Well, just for anyone listening. Sometimes we have to remember that, you know, we're not just having a conversation amongst each other. We're
not?
We're talking to everyone.
The pod, in quotes. But, oh my God, that's so diminutive. I don't mean that at all. I love this pod. But, okay. No, I mean, I would say there's a case to be made that there is no cherry on top in this. Like I'd say who's the DP? Whoever the cinematographer is.
I think that's against
it has to be a character.
I mean, that's not listed in. Well, we don't have rules for the cherry on top. But
I'd say Michael Burgess, the director of photography. But I'm not. But you know, whoever you want, sure, whatever.
All right. Well, it's gonna be old Gabe.
Old Gabe.
Yeah.
he's so destructive. Like he needs therapy.
Totally. Well, it even seemed like at the end of the movie when the mom was just like, I'm so like I should have never given you up, and he's sort of like standing there just like looking at her, just like, huh. Like it's just like almost like validating his destructiveness in a way.
No, that was pretty cool.
But then that's when Kakeo comes rushing in, shooting at him, and that like fucked everything up. So I mean, I wonder if that would have worked, or he would have been like, yeah, fuck this, and then just kept killing them.
I doubt it. He would have gone like full Michael Myers, Uncle Boogeyman. You know, like where maybe there's a tear streaming down the eye, but immediately the mask must come back on, and I am to kill you because that is my role. Because you know, let's face it, men, destructive.
Well, last week on the Cherry Picker, we asked you who deserves to die the most in Stephen King's Thinner. I nominated Billy Halleck. You nominated Richie Janelli. And across Patreon, Instagram, and YouTube, the total vote came to 440 for Billy versus 185 for Richie.
Thanks for coming out, guys. Thanks for trying. Thanks for punching.
Yeah,
we'll get there one of these days.
And and if we didn't mention before, I think it was just a funny irony that their names happen to be Ghostface Killer.
Yes, not Loomis and not Kirsch.
That's what I put. Like Billy, not Loomis, Halleck versus Richie, not Kirsch Janelli.
I wonder how many people like haven't seen the movie but were just like, I like Billy as a better Ghostface than Richie, so they selected Billy on that. I want to hear the.
Well, they'd rather but then that would mean if they liked Billy better, then they would rather see Richie die.
Oh, that's true. Well, maybe they think he deserved to die more. I don't know. Read it. Let's find out what motivated people. All right.
Mendejo says, this was one of my mom's favorite Stephen King movies when I was growing up. She was my gateway into horror. We watched it every other night when I was a kid. Quite a comfort movie. Anyway, White Man from Town gets my vote.
Okay, cool.
Kirsty Campbell. Both deserve it, but going with Billy as he set off these chain of events and blames others instead of taking the responsibility. As an adaptation of a novella, I think it's pretty good, but I prefer the book's ending, even though the change is quite minimal.
Okay,
DJ, Richie was a real one, 100%.
What does that mean?
A real what?
Are we missing a quote from the movie? Like
maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. Frost says, Billy, for putting us through 90 minutes of unpleasant eating scenes and barely even caring that everyone dies in this movie because of his own actions. Not to mention he kisses the corpse of his wife at the end.
Yeah. Pretty gross.
Yeah, we went into a whole bit about that. Phil W. Richie is what he is, and don't expect him to be anything other than a villain. I actually thought he should have been the cherry on top, solely because of Joe Mantegna's performance. Billy is the choice by default, But Judge Rossington was the more deserving choice, supposed to represent balance in the judicial system, but is corrupt and prejudiced to Tadzu and his tribe.
An enemy of hypocrisy in our midst. Okay. I like it.
I mean, I would have nominated the judge, but Billy was just his behavior was way more egregious. I just assumed that you were gonna do the judge, but no, you do your thing.
I had to vote my conscience, vote my heart. Yeah.
Where are we here? Thomas Baker. My vote goes to Billy. Sukiyaki Akari says Halleck as a name just sounds evil. Grant Dempsey. Okay. This one's as easy as pie. Billy. Name one character called Billy in a horror movie who doesn't deserve to die. Not a Bill, Will, or William, but a Billy. Can't be done. All horror movie Billies gotta go. Who do we have? I mean, other than Billy Halleck, Billy Loomis, Billy...
I just thought of Billy Peltzer in Gremlins. I don't think... Well, maybe he deserved to die because he didn't follow the rules.
Who's Billy Nolan?
Billy Nolan. Yeah, he definitely deserves to die.
What's the guy... The Silent Night, Deadly Night?
Oh, I don't even remember Billy's last name in
I think it's
Chapman.
Yeah,
that's a Billy.
Yeah. Then there's Billy from Black Christmas. I think Billy Nolan is probably at the top of the list, though.
All right. I mean,
Billy Nolan. Yeah. From Carrie, for anyone who...
Scare me. Yeah. We do it quite often whenever there's a Billy. And, of course, Billy of Melrose Place. Andrew Shue's character definitely deserved to
Elizabeth's brother. Yes. If there had to be if you've seen that show, God, he was the worst. He was the worst.
He was horrible.
Yeah.
We love you, Andrew Shue. Go on.
But not Billy.
Not Billy.
Where are we? Sucked. Can't be down with the white man from town. I don't know if that means that he's siding with you or me, but...
Can't be down with the white man from town, I think, means a thumbs down to the white man from town. Like, that's it. He's it. He's the one who dies.
But it's a can't be, so that's like cancels it.
Can't be down with the white man from
town.
Oh,
like down. Okay, down.
Out
like,
he goes.
Yeah, can't get down with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lopi Robinson. The lawyer is a hypocrite. The hitman is not. At least the hitman doesn't pretend to be good.
Again, hypocrisy.
And then
interesting.
Yuff My Materia says neither.
Well, that's not an option. I mean, you just don't vote.
Yeah, you just yeah. What are you doing?
Go ahead. Throw your vote away.
Yeah. If you're gonna say neither, if you're gonna say neither, then at least present a viable option 3. Is what I say.
Play the game. Come on.
Any Housers. Malignant. Fuck.
Yeah.
This
so
is
who you gotta choose there, Cherry?
I mean, I don't want to be basic, but what's his name? Derek Mitchell, I guess.
The husband.
Just not only just for being abusive, but just also being like a sucky character and listening to television that loud when you're clearly like a young person, like I can't. When I watch TV, I have to have it on so low because it's already so loud as it is that I can't like imagine. Like when I still lived at home, and like my stepdad would have TV on, it would always be like super loud. Or if I went to visit my grandmother, like the volume was always like up so high. So I don't know, that always bothered me. So for that reason, and the fact that he's a stupid non-character. Like his only redeeming quality is that he's like kind of handsome, but that's not enough.
Oh God,
that's not enough to save you,
Zack. Yeah. I didn't even notice that. All right.
Well, for the split second before he, thrust her head into the wall there, but
No, I guess he's just not my type. But okay. Damn, because The only one who I think is worse than him is Billy, and we can't vote the cherry on top.
Billy
for also to be the
what do you mean Billy
who deserved to die the most. Shit.
Sorry,
okay,
I'm confused. Billy.
Billy. I'm saying Billy. I'm sorry. You
Gabriel.
said Billy so many times. It's like in my head. For some reason, I'm thinking, yeah, he's a Billy too. Gabriel. I'm sorry. It's getting later, folks. I'm very tired. But Gabriel is who I meant. Fuck. So
well, okay. There's the mom, like the adoptive mom, who you were clearly had took umbrage with her.
Yeah, she's fun.
Her body shaming.
Also could go with Regina Moss, for like, not going when she was clearly less wounded than Shaw was.
Look, if you nominated Tree's mom from Happy Death Day for the fucking, and I'm gonna bring this up until the end of time, for pushing her head into the cake, as a legitimate reason. Oh my god,
absolutely.
Then I think that you can bend a little and also choose the mom for.
But the problem is, I don't feel like a very strong motive toward it. The problem is everybody else is kind of like equally deplorable. Like I could even make a case for Maddie to be on here, but the problem is I don't know. I don't want the optics of putting Maddie up against her abusive husband.
Nobody's looking at it like that. I mean, maybe one person will.
Someone will. Yeah. No, people will. People will sit there and go like, I don't understand how you can nominate Maddie. Well, I mean, it happens all the time where people just, I'm like, listen to the case. And they're just like, no, I'm going to take this at face value. Yeah. Or I'm not a Patreon supporter, so I see the poll before, I hear your case made. Yeah. Let me just go with, because I'm going to lose no matter what. But I'm going to choose Dr. Weaver because I hold her responsible for the whole movie. Because really, she made the wrong call. She made the absolute wrong call. Yeah. And she was still alive to clean up, and she didn't take any part. She didn't take any responsibility. She just answered the phone, hello, hello. And then, and then she just kind of appeared in, the fever dream that Maddie was having, that Gabriel was like kind of like bestowing upon her in the washing machine and everything like that. So let's just say Dr. Weaver. It doesn't even matter who I pick.
I mean, you could have picked the Scorpion, the Zoe Bell,
the Scorpion,
the lady in the prison cell, in the holding cell. Sorry, who's Beverly?
You got see. This is the thing.
No, I'm looking through the cast. Beverly, played by Paula Marshall. I just remember her. She was in Hellraiser 3. She played the little punk girl that the reporter took in.
Beverly. I don't know who Beverly
was she the hypnotherapist? I don't know. That's the thing. They're like, none of the characters in this movie are of any consequence besides.
Let me see. I'm looking at the images from her IMDb to see if there's any stills from this movie. She's done a lot of TV. Yeah. I'm not finding her. She looks like she could. I don't remember what the hypnotherapist looks like, but maybe this is her. I don't know.
Okay. So you're going with Weaver then?
It doesn't matter. Sure. Yeah.
No, because you can't tell people to vote their conscience and heart if your conscience nor your heart are in it yourself. Come on.
Okay, you know what? Just because I want to throw a wrench in the whole thing.
Please.
I want to see what... I'm interested every now and then, just like throwing a rock and see how fast it skips across the lake. Let's just say Maddie. Because... because really, if she would have just like sacrificed herself, she could have deprived of Saul of like all of this. She could have taken them both out. And I don't think any of us would have thought she was a coward for doing it. It's the honorable thing to do. There are all these deaths around you happening. Shoot the hostage.
Okay.
Anybody seen Speed? Keanu Reeves in Speed? Shoot the hostage. That's what that movie's about. And I think Malignant could have taken a tip from Speed. So
maybe that'll be the sequel. It'll be like Malignant on a bus that can't slow down.
And Keanu Reeves drops out of nowhere, and they're like, John Wick? And like, no, the character from Speed. I don't remember his character's name in Speed.
Jake.
If you do remember. Oh my God, you remember.
Oh, let me tell you.
You're going to look it up.
No, it was Jack. Sorry, I'm just about to look. Jack Traven.
Okay. Or Traven?
Or Traven. Yeah. I knew it was with a J. It was like Jake or Jack, but
okay.
Yeah.
Jack.
It's not even about her. It's all about Sandy and that, like, cuz she's the franchise. She went on to do the sequel.
Right. Oh my God, did 2 movies make a franchise?
I think so, cuz like honestly, like Speed 1 to Speed 2 is kind of like I Know What You Did Last Summer 2. I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. Actually, okay. I haven't watched Speed 2 in a long time, so I can't attest to that. But it's I've
never seen Speed 2.
Yeah.
Never seen it. Yeah. Yeah. I liked the first one though. It was fun for what it was.
Oh, definitely. For like just like a bad 90s action flick.
So yeah, I'm going to choose Madison just to hear the recoils and horror for my decision.
Well, there's always going to be like the percentage of people that are just like, yeah, that bitch.
Yeah, and those are my people. I'm good with being in an unvocal minority for a while because that's where I was last week. So.
That's not a good. If you wanted first dibs on next week's episode,
No, okay. It'll happen when it happens. I'm very zen about the whole thing.
All right, that's fair. Anyway, so vote your heart, vote your conscience. You can vote on Instagram or YouTube. You can also vote on Patreon if you support over there. And if you are a supporter on Patreon, which is my Patreon, I should be more specific. It is early access to all of the new episodes of The Cherry Picker. And if you are supporting on the Freddy Krueger tier, you will get access to The Cherry Picker After Dark. What's happening on The Cherry Picker After Dark this month, Edward?
Fantasy Scream Survivor. Trilogy. I know that it's not an echo anymore, but I still like hearing it in my head.
Yeah.
In my head, kind of trilogy.
Scream Survivor. Yeah. Which is going to be really fun. Are you done echoing yet?
Yeah, I'm done.
It was okay. First of all, it was never an echo. It was Dewey just repeating the line.
I know. I have admitted that much, but I still like hearing it in my head.
You still like to just rile me up, and yeah, okay.
Yes, no, oh my God. Yes, because all of my decisions have everything to do with your reaction, Zach Cherry. That's what I live for.
Anyway, please support us over there. And I would like to welcome some new Patreon supporters. So give it up to Nicholas, Colton Givey, Samantha Louise Makeup, Tyrone Lee, Sydney Prescott, 89.
Oh my God.
And Caleb Munoz Mora. So welcome aboard.
Yay!
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And obviously, as always, Andre Felix, our editor of the podcast. Thank you very much. If you are new to The Cherry Picker and you are watching us on YouTube, you can also listen to us on all major podcast streaming platforms. The RSS feed link in the descriptions down below. And if you are listening to us and you want to see our faces, just go to YouTube and subscribe to The Cherry Picker. We're also on Instagram at The Cherry Picker Pod. You can follow us there. And Edward, where can they find your socials?
I literally sit on Instagram, and that is all I do. Find me at Edward is Truth, all one word. Edward is Truth, spelled traditionally. And you can do the same with me on YouTube and that other one where the movie reviews live. What is it called?
Oh, Letterboxd.
That thing. Yeah, I'm on that.
Right.
Read my reviews and like them.
Yeah.
How about you, Zach Cherry?
I have a Letterboxd as well under Zach Cherry, but I think there's 2 that are under Zach Cherry, so make sure to go to the right one. It's whatever is like more recently updated. I don't know how the other one got there, how to get rid of it, but I also have my main YouTube channel, Zack Cherry, Zackcherry. Instagram is @retrobitchface, spelled traditionally, all one word. And Twitter, ZackCherry8. Anyway, what's going on next week?
Oh, is it the one where that happened a year ago and now they're all back, but they're not back. They're in a new place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly that.
And it ends with a V, but not with a V, but with a sound, a VI that makes the V sound. So Screevy is what we're doing next week. It
ends
right?
with a VI. Yes, it ends with a 6.
Yay!
Yeah,
that's the one we're doing.
Scream 6.
That gross.
What? What?
So six ream for a while we thought the C was going to be the 6, so we were like six ream.
I don't know. We'll figure it out when we talk about that. Like how
I
like the title for how it came out, but yes,
I do too. I love Screevy.
Yeah,
I can't wait for the 7th one to come out now that we know it got greenlit and we can get Screevy.
Is it like for sure greenlit though?
Yeah, it got greenlit the day before.
I thought that was just
opening weekend.
A rumor, but okay, we'll research, we'll discuss, and you can find that all here next week. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and we will be right back.